Hello everyone, my name is Stephen Kennedy and this is my Lab4 presentation, my second hike, part 1. Today I will walk you through a complete vulnerability assessment of my Kioptrix 2 virtual machine using 3 industrial standard scanning tools. Nmap for enumeration, OWASP, ZAP for web application, and Nessus for essential comprehensive vulnerability scanning. I will also analyze the findings, apply a flaw hypothesis methodology, map attack vectors, and discuss the legal and ethical standard around vulnerability disclosure. Let's get started. This slide shows our roadmap for today's presentation. We have 8 sections covering the full penetration testing methodology. Starting with target enumeration using Nmap, then moving through our 3 scanning tools, analyzing the specific web vulnerability, CSRF, and XSS formed by OWASP ZAP, exploring 10 key vulnerability from Nessus, building our flaw hypothesis, performing vulnerability mapping, tracing root causes, and finally discussing responsible disclosure standards. This structure follows a real-world penetration testing workflow. I perform 4 additional scans to build complete picture of the attack surface. The top port scan confirms the 6 primary services. The XMA scan, which send unusual flag combinations, show ports are open, filter, and confirm the target's firewall's behavior. The version detection scan reveal precise software version. OpenSSH 3.9p1, Apache 2.0.52 on CentOS, and MySQL running without authentication. A critical finding: the full aggressive scan with Nmap-p-a enumerate all 65,535 ports and reveal additional details including weak SSL, v2 cipher support, and server header information that confirms the Apache and CentOS version. All of these findings feeds directly into our vulnerability hypothesis. This is one of the most important scans Nmap's built-in vulnerability script. Running Nmap script vulnerable against my Kioptrix machine, which is 192.168.56.5, took 371 seconds and identified critical issue immediately. The scan found possible cross-site request forgery vulnerability on the login form at index.php. The form does not include or validate any anti-cross-site request forgery tokens. It found that the HTTP trace method is enabled, which can be exploited in cross-site tracing attacks. Most significantly, it identified the server as likely vulnerable to slow vulnerabilities, a denial of service attack where an attacker keeps many HTTP connections open simultaneously, eventually starving the server of resources. This finding gave us strong initial evidence for our flaw hypothesis. The vulnerability scan revealed three critical SSL and TLS weaknesses that are well documented in the CVE database. First, CCS injection CVE 2014-0224 affects older version of OpenSSL and allow a man-in-the-middle attacker to intercept and decrypt encrypted communications. Second, the logjam attack CVE-2015-4000 exploits the export-grade DHE cipher suite to downgrade TLS connection to 512-bit cryptography, which can be broken with sufficient computing power. Third, Poodle, POODLE, CVE-2014-3566 exploits a design flaw in SSL version 3.0 to decrypt secure communications through a pattern oracle attack. All three vulnerabilities are rated high risks and confirm that the SSL implementations on Kioptrix 2 is severely outdated. OWASP ZAP is an open source web application security scanner maintained by the OWASP Foundation. I pointed it at the Kioptrix 2 web server and it spotted the site, discovering 7 paths including PHP, MyAdmin, icons, image miner, and a test directory. ZAP identified 2 high severity alerts. The first is a cross-site request forgery vulnerability on the PHP MyAdmin login page. The form does not validate an anti-cross-site request forgery token, meaning an attacker could craft a malicious link when clicked by an authentic administrator, performs actions on their behalf. The second is a store cross-site scripting vulnerability in the comment parameter at /test/comment.php. The payload scripts alert XSS was stored and executed in the browser, confirming unsanitized storage input. Let's compare our 2 web application tools and define the vulnerabilities they found. Necto is a command line web server scanner that checks for over 6,700 known issues. It is fast and excellent for identifying outdated software, dangerous HTTP methods, and server misconfigurations. OWASP ZAP is more comprehensive GUI-based tools that acts as a proxy, actively crawling and testing web applications. ZAP is better for finding logic level vulnerabilities like cross-site request forgery and cross-site scripting because it understands the application's behavior, not just the server configuration. Cross-site request forgery tricks an authentic user into submitting a forged request. For example, an attacker could craft a link that, when clicked by a login PHP my administration admin, deletes the database. Store cross-site scripting found at the comment page means malicious JavaScript is permanently safe in the database and execute in every victim's browser who views that page. Nessus Essentials perform a basic network scan against my Kioptrix 2 machine and completed under 6 minutes, identifying 28 total vulnerabilities. The breakdown is 6 high severity, 12 mediums, 19 low, and 1 informational. The highest priority finding is the VS FTPD 2.3.4 backdoor command execution. This is an extreme well-known vulnerability where a malicious version of the FTP daemon was distributed with backdoors intentionally embedded in the source code. Other high severity findings include multiple OpenSSL vulnerabilities and Ubuntu package security updates. The medium findings are dominated by SSL or TLS weaknesses consistent with what we found in our MI vulnerability scan. The scan gave us a comprehensive and prioritized list of targets for exploitations. Here are the top 10 most significant vulnerabilities found across all 3 tools. The most critical is the VS FTPD 2.3.4 backdoor, a deliberate backdoor that was injected into the official source code in 2011 and grant immediate root level shell access through port 6200. Number 2 through 4 are all SSL and TLS weakness with CVE identifiers that have public exploits available. Slow lorries at number 5 is a low bandwidth denial of service attack that is easy to execute. Number 6 and 7 are web application vulnerability formed by the ZAP. Cross-site scripting and CSRF. Number 8 is the MySQL exposure. Having a database server accessible without authentication on a network is a critical data security risk. 9 and 10 reflect the outdated SSL and Apache version. Any one of these vulnerabilities alone will be sufficient for a skilled attacker to compromise the system. Flaw hypothesis methodology asks us to predict what flaw exists based on observable system characteristics before we exploit them. My hypothesis is that the system has been deployed with default configurations and never been patched because every service running from Apache to OpenSSH to OpenSSL, VSF, FTPD is all out of version consistent with CentOS installation from approximately 2004 to 2006, and all have been new critical vulnerabilities that have been public knowledge for years. My preferred attack vector is the VS FTPD 2.3.4 backdoor. It requires no credential, no brute force, and no complex exploitations. You simply send a smiley face character sequence to the FTP service, and a root shell opens on port 6200. As a secondary vector, the store cross-site scripting could be used to steal administration section cookies if the attacker does not have direct network access. The cross-site request forgery and SSL man-in-the-middle attacks are valid but require more setup. Let me trace the VS FTPD backdoor to its root cause. VSFTPD, which stands for Very Secure FTP Daemon, had an excellent security reputation through the 2000s. In June 2011, an attacker gained access to the official download server and replaced the legitimate VSFTPD 2.3.4 source code archives with a malicious modified version. The backdoor was subtle. It was triggered only when user's name containing a smiley face colon parenthesis sequence was submitted during authentications, after which the servers opened a root shell on port 6200. Security researchers discovered this in July 2011, and the backdoor was quickly removed. The root cause is categorized as a supply chain attack. The software itself was sound, but the distribution infrastructure was compromised. This is a critical lesson. Even trusted software from official sources can be tampered with, which is why cryptographic verifications of downloads is essential. Metasploit has a module for this exploit, making it trivially automated. Vulnerability disclosure is one of the most important ethical and legal responsibilities in cybersecurity. From a legal perspective, the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act prohibits unauthorized access to a computer system. Every scan and test are performed today was conducted in a controlled lab environment against machines are owned and operates. In a professional context, rating authorization is mandatory. From an ethical standpoint, the principle of do no harm guides responsible security research. We minimize data access, avoid disrupting production systems, and keep findings confidential until the vendors can respond. The industry standard is coordinated vulnerability disclosure, which gives vendors an opportunity to patch before public notification. Google's Project Zero popularized the 90-day deadline, which has become a widely accepted industry norm. My recommendation is this: disclosure to the vendors immediately. Give them 90 days to patch, and then publish publicly regarding of whether a fix is available because defender needs that information to protect their system. For actively exploited vulnerability, a 7-day emergency timeline is appropriate. To summarize today's presentation, I successfully enumerated the Kioptrix 2 virtual machine target using 5 different Nmap scans techniques, building a complete picture of the attack surface. I deployed 3 scanning tools in my vulnerability scripts, OWASP, ZAP, and Nessus Essentials, which together identified 28 vulnerability with 6 rated high severity. The most critical finding is the VSFTPD 2.3.4 backdoor, which represents a supply chain attack where the official download server was compromised and a Trojan version of the software was distributed. My flawed hypothesis was validated. The system has never been patched and uses default configuration from its original deployment. My disclosure recommendation is a 90-day coordinated window with vendors accelerated to 7 days for actively exploited vulnerabilities. The key takeaways from our organization is that the legacy system with unpatched vulnerabilities represent the most significant risks to our security posture, and a regular patch vulnerability management program is essential. Thank you.